Please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
CNBC TV18 Weekender.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the CNBC TV18 Weekender. I'm Priya Sheth and I'm joining you from the corporate headquarters of professional networking platform LinkedIn in Bengaluru. My guest today is 31-year-old Akshay Kothari, who's a geek, a products guy, and also someone who sold his startup at the age of 27 to LinkedIn and has now graduated to become the country manager for LinkedIn in India. My guest today, who's also perhaps the youngest CEO in town. Let's go and see what he's up to. Hi Akshay, how are you today?
Hi Priya, good. How are you?
Thank you for inviting us to your office today.
Welcome to LinkedIn.
And you've got a fabulous office.
Come, I'll show you around.
All right. So, you're perhaps the only millennial CEO for a company that's the size of LinkedIn in India. What really, drove them to appoint you to, take on the reins at LinkedIn?
I think it was a bet that the CEO Jeff took on me. I had a short career at LinkedIn in the US after my company was acquired, and it was amazing. And I had been in the US for almost 12, 13 years. So I was looking to move back, and so I went to him and I said, I've done my bit for LinkedIn. I think I'm going to, basically take off, go to India, spend some time there. And he said, if you really want to go to India, why don't you go run LinkedIn in India? And that's how I got here. And it's been about 2 years now. It's been a dream journey for me. It's been almost homecoming in some ways because I grew up in India. So it's great to be back.
From Silicon Valley to Bangalore, how has the journey been? What are the different aspects that you've brought on the table?
They are very kind of entrepreneurial, especially the time I spent in Palo Alto and San Francisco. I think everyone around you is starting companies. It's almost like if you have a corporate job, people feel like, oh, why, maybe it didn't work out for you. And so I think the overall air is very entrepreneurial. So I think, and people are okay with things not working out. In fact, even an entrepreneur who's probably not had successes for maybe 2 or 3 companies straight is still looked upon as someone who is experienced and is probably bringing a lot to the table. So I think that's one. I think the other thing is that I think in general, you're also around a lot of people who've had success. And so I think, you have mentors who are probably just walking around in the city that you can bump into. And so there's a lot more opportunities for you to learn from them. That's something that and then I think the final thing I would say, at least from an education standpoint, one of the things that I feel like the US has been tremendous for me has been this idea that it's not just about a specific field. So I studied engineering, but the amount of coursework that I took outside of engineering was a lot. So I took courses in the design school, I took courses in the mechanical engineering department, I took courses in statistics. And so overall, my undergraduate and my graduate degree was very all-rounded, which I thought was, I think it served me really well in life.
Talking about the top priorities that you have at LinkedIn, what would be your three key priorities when you've taken over at LinkedIn? It's been a year now.
So I think I would say, like, for us, 3 things that we really look at is, one is growth. How can we make sure that all of the knowledge workers to begin with, and eventually all blue-collar workers, are all becoming part of LinkedIn, which is the world's largest professional network now. When we have a lot more people signing in, which we seem to be getting now, we're close to 45 million members now on the platform. After that, we really look at how do we really provide them value. So the second thing we really look at is engagement. Are people coming back on a daily basis? Are they coming back? Are they getting value, either in terms of jobs or in terms of content or in terms of getting advice? And then the last thing we look at is monetization, which is how do we leverage the network and the data we have and help companies. I think the primary way we monetize is by helping companies hire better, market better, sell better, and learn better. Those are the 4 key pillars of our monetization strategy. And so those 3 things apply very much to India as well. We really focus on growing those 3 buckets.
I'm going to come to all of those things in a bit, but I wanted to understand with regards to products. When you've taken over, you've actually brought in a very interesting product that's LinkedIn Lite to the Indian market, and of course that's also been given to several other global countries as well.
Yeah.
Run us through what is the kind of growth and the kind of strategy out there as far as LinkedIn Lite is concerned.
I got here about 2 years ago, and one of the things I loved doing before building products is actually spending time on the field. And so what we did, when I got here early last year, is we actually went to 4 tier 2 cities. So we went to Nasik in the west, we went to Meerut in the north, we went to Durgapur in the east, and we went to Davangere close to here. And the idea was to not sell LinkedIn. The idea was to just learn about and to meet college students, to find out what got them there, what are their aspirations, how are they going to get their first job. When we spent a lot more time in the field, one of the things I realized was that as you go into tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, the connectivity is not that great. You're lucky if you can get 4G, but even if you have 4G, it kind of goes in and out a lot. So in our tests, when we were actually showing people our product, we realized that a lot of times our product wouldn't load. And so the first thing when we got back, it wasn't even me, actually the entire team was like, even before we start building new products and new features and new designs, let's just make what we have faster. Let's kind of prioritize speed as the number one thing. And so we got together, 6 engineers in 12 weeks, built the first version of LinkedIn Lite that was launched late last year. Today, it's the default product you see when you go to LinkedIn.com on your mobile device. That's the default product you see in India. And it did so well here. It literally lit up tier 2, tier 3 towns. People were wanting to come to LinkedIn, were wanting to actually access our site, but because of the connectivity issue, we were having trouble.
So what are the numbers looking like in terms of the downloads, in terms of the acceptance in tier 2 and tier 3 cities?
So specifically for mobile web, our number of sessions that we look at has doubled. When we look at pure engagement in terms of how people are engaging with the site, it's actually tripled just in the 6 months since we launched Lite. And so what it's done is that it used to be kind of primarily the desktop product and the mobile app. But what it's now is we're seeing mobile web increasingly something that people prefer. Just to give you some numbers, each page on the Lite site is less than 100 kilobytes. So even if you're on a 2G network, every page will load under 5 seconds. And so we reduced it by 80%. And what that did was that it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in a big city like Bangalore, but you could also be in villages. You could be like in the interior parts of like Northeast, wherever you are. Doesn't matter what the connectivity is, you can still access LinkedIn, you can still have access to all the jobs we have.
You've been primarily a products guy. What more can we expect in the Indian market, locally developed products?
Priya, one of the things I'm really excited about is, if you look at the Indian market overall, there's 1.2 billion people here. But if you look at knowledge workers, that's only about 70 to 80 million. And so that's our primary market. But if you look beyond that, there's a few 100 million blue-collar workers in India, and that's a highly fragmented market. And so for me, one of the things I'm really excited about is figuring out what we can do in that space so that people get better jobs, right? So you could learn, let's say, carpentry or painting, and you could possibly get the first job, first gig. But what can we do so that that same person is training more, is learning more, and possibly graduating to a knowledge job in his lifetime, in his or her lifetime. That is the primary reason why I came back to India. 45
million users as of now at LinkedIn in India, 100 million. When can we cross that milestone? Is there a timeline that you have in mind?
I think more than actually getting to a specific number, one of the things that I worry about is for the people we have and for the people who are actually signing up with us, are we like delivering value for them? Because you can always register more people very fast using a variety of different techniques. But for me, I think what's more important is, are you as a member finding value from the platform, either by getting a job or getting a speaking opportunity or reading content? And so I hope the 100 million number comes very fast.
2025, is that a target?
Hopefully sooner than that. But I think the more important thing that I will be tracking is that making sure that those 100 million people are actually getting jobs and finding value from the platform.
On that note, we'll slip into a very short break. There's lots more on the other side.
CNBC
24% is a kind of revenue jump that we'd seen at LinkedIn India over the last year. That's a public number that I'm quoting. Run us through what is the right number. Is that a number that we can go with? And can we expect the kind of trajectory that we are seeing over the last year?
So Priya, one of the things we've started to do in the last 2 years since I came back is start to make products that are made in India, by India, for India. LinkedIn Lite, we talked about, is one of the examples of that. And what we're seeing is that these local investments are actually accelerating growth for us in India. We're already seeing that in terms of more signups coming every week, more engagement happening on the platform. And so one of our hope is that because of the stronger growth and engagement and the re-acceleration we've seen, that will actually allow us to grow our revenues much faster in the next couple of years as well.
Is there a revenue target that you're working with? About 458 crore rupees is the kind of revenues that we're running with at this point in time. Can you expect to possibly double the revenue over the next 2 to 3 years? Is that a target that you're working with?
We do have targets, but we don't break it out by country. We've never done that as a public company, and now even as part of Microsoft, we used to break Asia Pacific revenues, but we don't break country-wide either revenues or guidance.
You know, if you talk about India as a country, it's perhaps contributing to the lowest in as far as revenues are concerned to the overall global kitty at LinkedIn. That's primarily because of the lower number of paid users out of India. Do you look at increasing the kind of share of paid users at LinkedIn?
So first of all, I think I think India is actually, if you look at overall revenues, it's probably a small percentage, but there's 200 countries, so it actually gets split. Within Asia Pacific, it's already the second largest after Australia, and so from that standpoint, it's actually already, we feel pretty good about where we are. The other thing I would say is that a lot of companies, LinkedIn is one of them, but if you look at all of the major tech giants, we're all very bullish about what India has to offer over the next 10 years, right? More and more people are coming online, more and more people are spending online, more and more people are increasing their wages are increasing every year. And so in general, I think all of us are very bullish about what India in terms of growth over the next 10 years will probably among the fastest growing all around the world. And that's what excites me as well, is to be part of this growth story and really see LinkedIn India continue to kind of grow its revenues as well.
Can you run us through the kind of revenue split that you have in the Indian market? I understand a large part of your revenues really comes from talent solutions at this point in time, but if you could break it up in terms of percentage for us.
Yeah, so you're right. So more than 60% of our revenues come from talent solutions. That is primarily our recruiting products. Outside of that, we also have marketing solutions, which is basically allowing companies to market on our product. And then the third thing that we've had in India is being subscriptions. This is subscriptions that you and I can buy as an individual consumer to get more premium features. The two new businesses that we've started in the last year or so, one is the learning solutions business. So essentially, there's a company we bought called Linda 2 years ago that companies can use to upskill their employees. So that's one. And then recently, just last quarter, we started our local operations for solutions. We sell a product called Sales Navigator. So if you're a salesperson and you're looking to figure out who you should sell to, what are the right folks in those companies that you're selling to, it taps into the network and helps you find that person.
You've been through the Microsoft acquisition and wanted to understand how things are changing. Are things different now? Are you doing some sort of monetizing? Because of course Microsoft has been good at monetizing their products. So is that changing?
So it's actually been really good. I've gone through an acquisition myself of my startup, which was bought by LinkedIn. So this is the second time around for me. It's been about a year, I think. Last December was the acquisition close. So it's been surprisingly very smooth. Acquisitions, especially the size of LinkedIn's acquisition, was very large. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. But for us, thankfully, a lot of things have gone right. We now are able to access and leverage Microsoft's resources, Microsoft's technology. We've picked very few, very focused bets on integrating with them. So one example is, our sales intelligence product is now integrated with their Dynamics product. And so that actually is a very strong combination for a salesperson. Similarly, the LinkedIn identity is integrated into Outlook. So if you're using email and some random person emailed you, it will tell you who that person is because it leverages the power of LinkedIn. So all in all, I think it's been a great acquisition. It's and one of the core focuses of the acquisition after it was announced was to leverage Microsoft's resources and reach to help grow LinkedIn faster. And if you look at just how that this year has played out, it's actually worked out exactly that way.
You've been doing a lot in terms of expansion. We've seen a whole new floor open up here in this office as well. So of course that really points out to the fact that you are hiring more, you are on expansion mode. What are the numbers looking like?
So we're about almost 1,000 people if you include contingent workers. I think there's been good organic growth. I think the India story has been amazing for the company. It's among the fastest growing markets for us now. The other thing is that, one of the things that I've never worked in India before this job. And one of the things I've been pleasantly surprised by is the quality of talent that's available in this country. If you can provide that talent a good direction and good guidance in terms of where they need to go, they're among the best in the world. LinkedIn Lite, was created in 12 weeks. 3 months, we literally rebuilt the entire mobile website, and that's just a sign of the talent that exists in India.
So would you look at expanding in the sense doubling the kind of workforce out of India?
I think we don't have specific goals around the number of employees. I think it's very much more organic. We're basically, as the business requirements are, as the product requirements are, we'll continue to grow. We continue to have a lot of openings if anybody's looking for a job at LinkedIn. But one of the things, this is actually one of the things that Valley companies have really shown is that, we had an event just a couple of weeks ago, which was Bring In Your Parents. Every company has Bring Your Kids to Work. We flipped it and we started Bring In Your Parents. And we had about 300 employees bring their parents in. And when the parents walk around, they think about this office and what it has to offer compared to what they've grown up in terms of the offices they've gone. And the question in their minds is like, when do you actually work? Because it feels so fun, it feels so playful. But one of the things that this is the Valley has taught everyone is that if you're happy at work, you will do your best work. You will look forward to coming to work. And that's one of the things that we've tried to stay consistent all around the world. So the offices here have a lot of fun things that you can be doing. And every time we open a fun thing, I sometimes get nervous, like, is this going to be a big distraction? But every single time, it ends up being improving the quality of the work life and improving the metrics we look at in terms of growing our business.
All right, on that note, we'll slip into a very short break. There's lots more on the other side.
CNBC TV18 Weekender.
So is this where you spend most of your time de-stressing from work?
I try to spend as much time as I can. These days are rather busy. I have a new daughter, first kid, so I try to really jam my day with as many meetings, as many things as I can do, and then rush back home to spend as much time with her.
You've raised the bar for an average 30-year-old. Run us through, what really inspired you, what really motivated you, and do you really actually do things that an average 30-year-old does?
I think I've been really fortunate with the career I've had. I don't know if I was necessarily the most brilliant, kid in the class, but I think, right place at the right time for a variety of different things has landed me here. And in some ways, like, now that I'm 31, actually, I look at the new crop of entrepreneurs who are in their early 20s, and now I feel old, right? I think we now have, folks who are in their early 20s, CEOs of, major companies, and so I'm not that young anymore.
People usually have a list of what they want to do before they're 30. I'm sure you have a list of what they should not do before 30 to achieve the kind of scale and growth that you have.
As I look about kind of what I can do the next decade, a lot of it is giving back. What can I do coming back to India in terms of giving back to the youth here? How can they have better opportunities? How can they possibly start their own companies and go on to do bigger things? I feel like that gives me more joy now than trying to really optimize for myself.
Any regrets that you have in life so far?
So my only regret, and this is something my mom would appreciate, is that I think growing up, she would always be on my case about learning some sort of a musical instrument. And I think I took piano for like a few months, took flute for a few months, but I never really stayed disciplined about it. And so here I am, not knowing any musical instrument, and the amount of time we actually spend listening to music, I wish I actually also played one.
But you're a fan of classical music, isn't it?
I love classical music. That's something that I picked up actually when I was in the US, maybe something that reminded me of India. And so the last decade, I've listened to a lot of classical music.
Okay, on that note, we're going to do a very quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready?
All right, let's do this.
All right. So if not at LinkedIn, then where?
If I had to pick a company, I would pick a company called IDEO. It's a global design consulting firm.
Silicon Valley or Bangalore?
If I had to pick one, I'll go with Bangalore.
Do you think you lucked out with Pulse?
Absolutely. I mean, Pulse was a class project at Stanford. We built the app in 6 weeks. Never in the wildest of dreams would we have thought that a class project would now be recommending content to 500 million people.
Yourself 20 years from now?
Get back to entrepreneurial roots at some point. So I'm hoping, next 20 years will have some share of that.
Your favorite book?
One of the things that I've really enjoyed reading recently is some of these historical figures like Benjamin Franklin and Einstein and the lives they lived. And one thing that's amazed me is like how much they did in one life.
An entrepreneur, a CEO, or a father, the role that you'd like to pick?
They're all amazing roles. I'm actually getting to play all three of them right now. I would say right now, because it's new and I'm really enjoying it, it would be being a father.
Last question with regards to who's your favorite classical singer or musician?
So I really like the flute, and so Hariprasad Chaurasia is someone I really enjoy listening to. But I also like some fusion, and so the band I would pick, and I guess the artist I would pick is a band called Shakti, and that was like Zakir Hussain playing with John McLaughlin and doing some amazing music together, and so those would be my picks.
On that note, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for coming.
With that, it's a wrap on this very special show. Many thanks for watching.
CNBC TV18 Weekender.